In this video, we'll give you an update as to what's happening with employment and family-based interview waivers. Yes, interviews are still continue to be waived, but also an interesting trend coming from immigration, what immigration officials are doing right now that is so different, and I will update you as well in this video. So, what are you waiting for? I'll see you on the other side. Hello everybody. So in this video, I'll give you a full update, a recent update on what's happening right now with immigration interview waivers, both on family and on employment-based of our cases. And also, just to listen, an update about a recent trend that we see coming from the USCIS that you might find very interesting. But before that, if you're here for the first time, make sure you subscribe to our channel, click that bell to be notified so you don't miss any of our videos and our live broadcasts that we do once a week. And also give us that big like so that YouTube is going to share this video with more people just like you. My name is Jacob Sapochnick and I'm an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California. We help clients in all 50 states and we're excited to create those videos for you every single week. And also we bring you a lot of the updates that we see in our cases that happen every single week in our office, so we can share that with you as we get that information from the USCIS as well as the State Department. So let's talk about interview waivers. I know quite a few. Every time we make those videos, I know there's a lot of interest. People want to know what's the trend, and those things are evolving since they started early in May. And immigration started to do so. And remember, to this day, there's no official policy of them. It's not announced anywhere that they're doing it, but it's happening on a regular basis. So let's talk about what's happening right now with waivers. And for us, what we see is that a lot of our employment cases are getting interview waivers. But an interesting trend that is just started happening a couple of weeks ago is that USCIS is actually calling. They are calling clients over the phone. They're not sending a letter, they're not sending a fax or an email, they're actually calling. And the first time when this happened a few weeks ago, when one of my clients said, listen, I got a call from USCIS, is this real? And I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure what to say, but he took the call and basically it wasn't official from USCIS. The number was also on the caller ID, it says USCIS, and it was actually the officer adjudicating the case. In this case, it was an EB2 case, green card based on EB2, the national interest waiver case. And the officer asked, identify himself. He's from USCIS. He told the client that he's calling about his case. They're doing some final checks, and he asked him essentially only a few questions. He asked him to know what he's doing right now, where he is employed. He wanted to know how many employees are currently working at his company, because remember there was a national interest waiver. He's creating jobs, and then they ask him questions about his future plans, what he intends to do once he gets his green card. Again, it's all related to the EB2 national interest waiver, and that's it. It was a very short interview, about 3 to 5 minutes. And when the interview was concluded, within a week, the client received an approval for his adjustment of status case, and then his green card arrived in the mail a few days later. So again, since then, it happened to a few more clients. So if you do get a call from a USCIS, again, I'm always cautious about people calling from IRS or from all these agencies. There's definitely a lot of scam going on, but USCIS actually, they have this system right now where they are calling people. And remember, let them do the talking. They have all the details, so the officer was not asking the clients for identifying information. He just asked him actual individual that he's talking to, but then all the other information they had on file, and that's it. So they seem to be calling, USCIS seem to be calling specifically in employment-based cases. They're not calling anybody in the family petitions. So if there will be an interview for a family petition specific case, that interview will happen in person. The interviews that were waived for our family petition, for our family cases, and I made a video about that as well, are specific to what we see is long-term marriages, those that came here on a K1 fiance visa and then they are adjusting their status, as well as some military families. Those are the ones that we've seen being waived on the family side. But on the employment side, there's a lot of cases that are being waived. EB2s, EB3 cases, a lot of national interest waivers, those cases that don't require an employer. And like I said, recently, USCIS has also been calling applicants. So once again, if you get a call and you look at the phone and it's a USCIS caller ID, just be aware that it is happening. It's not a hoax. Of course, try to verify. You know, our clients ask questions from the USCIS officer. He gave him the right information. He was able to verify that he's actually working on his file, and he was able to, to get that case approved. So also, we wanted to report some interesting news on 751 waiver cases. So again, when you file the removal of conditions, sometimes they'll call you for an interview, but what we've seen in quite a lot of our clients, that their interviews have been waived and that they've been receiving their green cards based on 751 filings without an interview. So those are also great news in that respect. And finally, people were asking me about N400s. So we have a lot of our N400s that were filed early in the year and at the end of last year. And many of those interviews were rescheduled. If you remember, during the pandemic, we had a lot of people that had interviews scheduled for April, May, and June. All these interviews that were rescheduled because USCIS were not taking people in person are now getting priority and getting those interviews scheduled. So we have a lot of our N400 interviews being scheduled right now for people that were rescheduled before, during the pandemic, when USCIS offices were closed. So those are actually hopeful news to see, and hopefully that will continue as well as oath ceremonies are being scheduled for a lot of our clients that were approved, and now they're getting their oath ceremonies being conducted. So I hope that will continue as well. I wanted to tell you about an interesting case that we had. Remember that a lot of our DV lottery clients that were inside the US, I'm not talking about those that were outside of the US, but those that are inside the US that are waiting for their interviews to be scheduled. They were so worried because September 30th was the deadline to get those cases scheduled for adjustment. So we had a very interesting case where one of our attorneys, Marie at the office, was very persistent with USCIS. She was emailing, she was calling almost every day, trying to get the clients, get his fingerprints biometric scheduled, because he didn't have the biometric scheduled, and without those he wouldn't be able to finish his case. So finally, through a lot of efforts, USCIS agreed to schedule biometrics and his interview literally less than 2 weeks before the deadline. And our client was able to get his adjustment of status interview, and he was approved for his green card based on DV lottery. We get a lot of emails from clients, from people that follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, that were not able to get their interview scheduled and they missed out. And these are devastating news. Like I said, with USCIS, it is important to be persistent, consistent, and make sure that they know that we're not going to give up until our clients are going to get their interview scheduled. And this is exactly what happened in this case. And he was able to get his appointments. Remember, if your case is delayed and you're not getting your results, it is important to put pressure, whether it's on USCIS or the State Department. And we'll talk about that in a separate video, about what we do to help our clients get their F2A, K1s and CR1 interviews expedited and scheduled. We're not going to stop until they do so. So just to summarize, interview waivers continue. Now immigration USCIS officials are actually calling on the phone, and if they do, make sure you pick up their phone and go through that short interview, 3-5 minutes. They verify employment or other things that are relevant to your case, whether it's an EB2 or EB3 or EB1 case, and at the end of that, they will approve the 45 without an interview, and they'll send you the green card. So that's happening a lot right now. And also on the family side, we've seen quite a few of these interviews being waived, and we'll continue to report as we see that in cases that are happening in our office. So hopefully this information was helpful. If so, make sure to subscribe to our channel and also give us that big like, so YouTube will be able to show this video to more people just like you. And finally, I wanted to let you know that we have this brand new membership called Immigration U. If you want to learn about things like that, if you want to know firsthand what's happening in immigration, join our private membership. We have videos there, checklists, case samples, Zoom calls with our attorneys every single week. immigrationu.com. The link is in the description of this video. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.